All right, here we go again. Take 3.
You are listening to the Law Enforcement Pirate Radio Network. Radio Free Larry
You can run, but you can't hide.
Radio Free Larry. You are listening to the Law.
All right, what happened there is I clicked it to say don't repeat. So somebody got the message to me, but it's still repeated. So I'm not sure what's happening there. We'll take a closer look at it. It may be because I didn't have it set on don't repeat when it was started. In the middle of it, I figured it out. But what it did, it looked like help, and it probably was help, but Satan converted it into something that caused me not to stop it manually, which has been happening the whole way since I figured it out. But at this point I was ready, and then it was like, oh look, don't repeat, just click on that. Should have known something. The term repeat is taboo in the Army, in the military. That's an artillery command, a mortar command. So some more information came in. So I knew it, but it refreshed my memory. So you have to understand what they're doing. They're putting their victim in a fabricated investigation under color of law bubble, which means now nobody can know anything. And everybody within the bubble is sworn to secrecy forever. That's how they run the deep state. So if a deep state operator, say like Carnaby, who's not a law enforcement officer, contacts his contacts, says, hey, they're blabbing about it, they know about it, what do you think happens? All of a sudden it becomes an investigation. Everybody involved is made afraid not to say anything to anybody. No, it doesn't make the world better. It doesn't make kids safer. It's quite the opposite. So what they'll do is they'll create a condition where we're conditioned to believe that it causes somebody to kill themselves and kill their family, then kill themselves. Or drive around the neighborhood and shoot select people and then kill themselves. But if you're an intelligent person, no, not somebody that's went to Harvard University or Yale, the best lawyer in the country, best entrepreneur in the country, not one of those people that the deep state selected because some of them, not every one, but some of them will do exactly what the deep state says. If you look at the number of people that have gone bankrupt, if you look at the number of people that lost a loved one while going bankrupt, it's probably something like less than 1% commit suicide, kill another person, kill them or the family and themselves. But they make you believe that this is the excuse. Like, oh, it's okay because they were in the employee assistance program. That's what they did to me. They forced me into it. I don't think Donovan was part of it. He thought he was doing something right. I might be wrong. Right. They took a fraudulent statement and said, we won't act on this. And it's definitely a fraudulent statement. Right. Little girl. But then little girl gets protected status, right? She's my victim, right? Narcissist. Extraordinaire. If deputies were free to speak, the ones that I worked with, they would tell you she's the worst person that they could ever imagine because now they know the truth. Then they didn't. But she was still the worst person you could ever imagine. Narcissist. Classic narcissist. Along with other cronies working for the CIA, corruption. So the idea is they put them in a bubble and nobody's ever allowed to speak about it. And then it gets sealed up. You can't ask for information. One of the reasons you can't ask for information because it's an ongoing case. You see how they do that? It's another one of the scams. It's a torture chamber they create. And they'll pay for it in hell. I mean, some have paid here already, but it's not universal. Well, for some of them, the person they were harassing got out of the car and shot them. You know those cases where somebody goes crazy and shoots somebody? Some of those people that were killed are the deep state operator trying to get their million. And there are people out there, and I don't recommend it, that are the other side of the deep state. They'll take them out. Well, because it's not lawful. Strictly lawful behavior. In fact, some people may have been followed to work today by the other people that take out the deep state. Oh, come on, you murder people. You murdered their loved one. You murdered their buddy from war. You don't call it murder, of course. You're just investigating. Nothing you can say because you're involved in corruption. So they know the deep state scam. They reversed it. They reverse engineered the deep state scam. Why do you think I talk about reverse engineering things? So people can understand what you're all doing. But these people took the reverse engineering to the next level. They do it to you. All of you. Just a matter of time, you're on a list of it. Yeah. Veterans are good for nothing, right? They're all unemployed, right? Well, these people just happen to be unemployed and have money. And they didn't get it from the deep state. Well, I'm just letting you know what's going on so you know who's following you. Little girl even knows who they are. Right. She was in the courtroom. The weirdest thing, he was a SEAL and he was a chef. What was that Steven Seagal movie? It was the strangest thing. Like, okay, this guy's a SEAL. We had to know, you know. Felt bad, felt horrible. They tried to soil him. Oh, guess what we found in that house? Well, you know, whatever you found in that house, if that was my wife and she was part of it, I wouldn't care. She was gorgeous. Right. So, no, it wasn't. It wasn't the trooper applicant, the Maryland State Trooper applicant failure that had sex with a dog. It wasn't that. But actually, they enjoyed it so much, I don't think people actually had sex with animals, but maybe they did. I just think it was a byproduct of their fantasies about other people. But when we went down to the, you had to have that like maximum number of people in the courtroom, right? And all hands on deck, Everybody down in the courtroom, and there's not a seat left. It's not a huge courtroom; it's a magistrate courtroom. But again, there were like 20 people that looked like seals in there. So again, when something happens, they respond to one of their people. I think he's okay. He was probably deep stated. Back then, I didn't know. He developed psychological issues. Well, I probably deep stated. He started purchasing mines or something like that. I think it was ATF case. Well, he was a successful businessman. There was no need. Still a young guy too. Beautiful wife. Some breakfast too. That moment the coffee wears off, you gotta eat. But you have to understand, when the deep state does this, they try to dredge up all the trauma that they caused before. That's why they do that, the way that I explained it. But we went down that courtroom, and every time there was a proceeding, bunch of they were a former, I guess, a bunch of former SEALs show up. They packed the courtroom. Now again, I wouldn't know anything was going on because they weren't looking for me. Right. So nothing would have led them to me. But they were sending the message that, back later I knew what the message was. If you're being followed, it won't be me. They will not succeed in that way. Plenty of multimillionaire veterans who run quote unquote PI firms and things such as that. So again, veterans do have issues, but the deep state takes advantage of that. I caught that right away. Mountain Laurel Police tried to say it was war. It was from the war. Well, they were engaged in psyoping me. I was mentoring some people on the street. One was this black guy, about probably 18. No relationship outside of what was happening on the sidewalk. Right. And I was teaching him metaphysics. I don't know if he ever got anywhere. Right. I was changing his point of view. And of course, he came and told me everything they said. That was before they had the thought to swear to secrecy as far as in New Jersey. I gave him some incense or something, a box of incense. It was a blue box of hems. It was probably myrrh or something like that. See if I can find it. But yeah, if you think you're talking to the same person and they're playing it off as someone else, you might be right. It's one of the deep state tricks. They'll say law enforcement, but they're full of shit. They're scumbags. Yeah, it looks like it was Murr. Looking for another block. No, it wasn't Blue Champ. Yeah, it was Murr. Murr having incense. Murr. Mr. Murr. Actually, Murr is I think more in Hebrew. That's actually a sign to use incense. Again, I didn't know all those years until after I actually started using incense for the Lord and to them. So they'll do things like put bait. So they'll test to see how they can get you to share something that they want you to share, and it'll start innocuous, and then eventually they'll know how to trigger you to get you to share something. Then you share something like Trump sharing a photo that probably is a photo he shouldn't share because who it's related to, but they'll put people or Trump's people. They'll put you into a mind where they're manipulating what you post. I mean, they're sick. That's their whole game. It's a case by case basis. Again, I think you have standing to petition the Supreme Court, but again, it's not Jim Crow. I think if you get to the point to acknowledge that it's not Jim Crow, you may be able to make a real argument. Well, because the court's not going to find that it's Jim Crow. We have too many multimillionaire and millionaire, maybe even billionaire. I think there's a couple of black billionaires. Yeah, there's obviously black billionaires. So again, nobody's suppressing at that level. Well, again, there is a narcotics issue within the black community. It might be metaphysically wrong, caused by white people that are in the KKK because they have power and money themselves. But the question is, are your black billionaires and millionaires actually healing and protecting the black people? Who am I speaking to? The Congressional Black Caucus. Well, I think making the argument at the level of Jim Crow, as the black senator from the Republican Party. He looked new. I don't know his name. I'd have to look him up. He articulated it kind of well, and I think that's where the court is. But again, always remember you're allowed individual cases of discrimination. Nobody's taking away any type of law that protects you per se and your people. So, well, maybe it's a wake-up call. Like get into the problem, get your people off of narcotics. Again, Native Americans know about, again, now it's opiates, but they knew about alcohol. And they knew that if alcohol was available, their people were going to fail around alcohol. If you know that heroin and opiates are failing your people, then you need to move on that. And it's an uphill battle, but that may be it. Now, of note, that black senator from the Republican Party said he's in a majority white district. And again, it was, I think, the South. Texas, right? Which, they got their KKK flags and stuff. But I'm not telling you you're not discriminated against, but I was discriminated against my entire life by people of color and other white people who wanted me to be a racist. So again, I think that's where the judges are to a certain degree. That this discrimination is well, again, there's no all's fair in love and war and elections, to a certain degree. Again, there's when it comes to redistricting, all that stuff, I mean, good for goose, good for gander is what's going on. I've warned about it years ago. I can't tell you each individual case whether it's fair or not. I looked at Tennessee, and it's the numbers are close as to whether a court could find an issue with that. You're not guaranteed a black, because that's racist, to be guaranteed a black congressman. Yeah, but again, it's when we look at Tennessee, we're talking about 15 to 16% of the population is black in Tennessee, and then it's only like about 6% in that area, if that. So again, the question is, can you include race in faction and then find something wrong there? And you could, but I don't know if that's that case. There are people that are KKK minded that did it, but that doesn't make it unlawful. Unless they all met and we got to keep the black people out of the government because they're ruining everything or something. So again, there are laws that protect you. And if you had an investigation and you can prove a criminal conspiracy to deprive rights, then you have something. But again, black people have deprived the rights of white people and have legitimized it by saying, well, they deprive our rights. But those individuals probably were just innocent people. That's how it works. That's how Satan works. So I have to speak on that and then drop it off at the Congressional Black Caucus. If they aren't listening. Or if somebody else doesn't listen. Well, the problem is we're in a mode of change. And there are racist people out there. But again, the courts will find, based upon the cases they sit on and the cases they read about and situations that come up in their lives, that they may even, a white justice may go in somewhere and a black person is, very rude, and, it may come off that it's because the judge is white. And again, of course, being in the street, speaking about violence is not the answer. I believe the answer at this point, the Native American and the black culture to begin with is to get your people off narcotics. Now, one of the things about this type of thing where we are now, years ago, people using the other drugs weren't as addictive. Well, you can't just give money and pull them out. You can't give them a job. You can't give them money. You give them money, they're going to buy drugs. And that may have happened under the Biden administration. I was concerned with that. Well, you can't argue with the statistics. To a certain degree, yes, there are people that are unkind and discriminatory to black people. But the same thing happens to white people. And to tell you the truth, when the black person's discriminatory, it's been my history. Again, I lived in Logan, Philadelphia. We're on the way to the library near Einstein Hospital. So we walked a few blocks. And people were going to beat us up because they thought we were Jewish and they were black. Now, it's a long time ago. But even then, young people, but God protected us. We just continued on to the library. It's one of the few times me and my three brothers actually went somewhere together, other than with the parents, as far as being away from the home. Or my two brothers, there's three men, three. And again, I know I've been discriminated against by people. And that's what the deep state does. So you have to understand the KKK man is going to motivate KKK men in government. They're going to motivate the black person to discriminate against the good white person, to try to turn the white person against black people and other races also. And also, people outside of government who are part of the crony system. Well, like I said, when they attack me, I just work harder. So there's work to be done in the black community. And the answer isn't always giving something. So again, that may make your people a little weak. And they don't. And again, they work hard. If they come from nothing, they get something, but not as hard as the people that still have nothing. Because that you would just get like when you're a child and you have a good thought, and every child has a good thought. That's where your ups come from. But that's when they're killing you and killing out your ability to get up. People in your elementary school were devils. I know it sounds strange, but they have devil mind, and they wanted you to suffer and wanted other people to suffer. So if you're not healed, it's going to take. And again, you can heal your people. And another way to heal them, there's people online that are pulling people off the streets. They're black, white, indifferent. I don't know if we have any red people yet. We'll see if we can get them to start doing the Vic thing. That's what we need. Maybe I'll pass that along. Well, the answer isn't always to enact new laws or, affirmative action type things. In fact, I think, Farrakhan, for all his faults, he did some good work in the black community. So again, maybe that's an answer for some of you, and it doesn't have to be Islam. It could be every religion working together. In fact, you can get funding, and don't make sure you account for the funding. You probably get funding to be that. You could probably put people from religion on the streets, pulling people off the streets, taking them in the rehab, aftercare. That's what's going to save your people. Because for every one you save and every one you succeed, they might give back and find a way to empower people to live the life they're now living once they're clean. Again, I know it feels bad, but go with it. Dig in and find the problems and get your people up without just throwing things at them. And I know people work hard, but some people work hard and never get anywhere. So the idea of getting somewhere just because you work hard isn't really here on this planet. It doesn't really happen across the board. And maybe it's a wake-up call from God telling you to get down into the streets and save your people, and save all people. It doesn't have to be black. You can be black and save this guy, USA Fox. I think he's black. Now, I forget his screen name, but he always says you're on USA Fox because he's videoing, and that's what he calls it, I guess. And he saves what? He tries to save white people. He's got Narcan. He's got, he calls people up, getting seats when he can in rehab. He's in one of the worst hit areas in the country, Kensington, Philadelphia. That's what we need. We need an army like that. And then you won't be worrying about climate change. Or what they call it, DEI. I don't agree. Again, what they want you to believe is that I'm this right winger, that, you got hired because you're DEI. I was told people were hired for DEI that were black, people of color, that were gay, and they weren't even the best. They were disenfranchising black people. They were disenfranchising gay people that were really the people that should have received those jobs.
2 districts to a limit.
And again, you're doing the same thing. Virginia tried the same thing. That's what the courts notice probably the most, is that you're complaining about something that you engage in yourselves. Disenfranchisement of somebody of another race or another political party. Do I think if we can find a little more peaceful Farrakhan, and Farrakhan had his ways about him, and he did some good things, did some great things. But again, I think we could do better than we can take what he did, his model, and improve on it and not turn people against others and pull people off the street. Give them something to do. Give them, they could, these cities, like I say, could have these people cleaning up the city. Complaining that they make a mess, get them off the street, get them clean, and have them help you clean the city. Give them a place to live. From what I see, the biggest problem with drug addiction is that we have not raised up an army of healers and people that care for others. Because where that exists, there are successes. Well, I think we need to look at the social issues that beset African Americans and focus more on that. There are people that will give you money if you pull people off the street and put them in rehab. There's video. There's a lot of people that are hurting from that, lost loved ones, and they want to find, and they have money and they want to finance it. So again, the Congressional Black Caucus needs to look closer at why there's issues in the black community. Otherwise, you're just perpetrating the revolving door. And that could be seen as a fraud. Well, I find that some rehabs, again, you have to find the right rehab because, again, if I heal you, then you're not coming back and I don't get additional funding. So you have a lot of hanky-panky, as is suspected at this time of the world. Well, maybe it's a wake-up call from God. Again, God is patient, but there is that point. I mean, if I was AOC, if I was Mr. Green, I'd be spending at least, this is how CEOs that are successful succeed their company and are respected by their people. I would be out on the street with a team of people and what do they call them? Scholarships to rehab. And a whole program. You can't just do rehab. You got to do detox, rehab, and aftercare. And you can do it. They can see your face out there with a team of people. And once they go to rehab, okay, I got my photo app. No, you make sure your people call and see how they're doing. Maybe even visit them in rehab. This is a problem. But it also affects white people. So the court's looking at the world saying, wait a minute. The USA Fox guy, it's funny, he's a black guy. He's in a predominantly white neighborhood of addicts. He's Hispanic and black, but he speaks to a lot of white people. Stay peaceful. Praise God in all that you do. Praise God.